Well, hey everybody, today is April 17th. It's a Friday. And I wanted to take a break from my sewing of my masks because I was on a baby lock sewing group. And the ladies were bringing up a topic about what brands of thread to use and that their dealers are telling them not to use Coats & Clark. Well, you know what? We've heard this for years from people, and there are a couple things I want to go over because I've seen this in other groups as well. First of all, years ago, sewing machine dealers used to carry Coats & Clark, they used to carry Sulky, and then when these brands went into the big department stores, to the big box stores, suddenly these local dealers, they were upset because, you know, that brand they carried went somewhere else, so then they started to badmouth the brand. All right, but there's nothing wrong with these brands. But let's go back maybe 50 years, 50, 60 years ago. Technology was old back then when they made thread, and thread was linty back then. But since then, technology has improved. Now, a lot of people who sew, we collect thread, we collect fabric, we collect notions, and some of these home sewers have thread that's 50, 60 years old. They go to load it up and it gets all this fuzz, and they're like, oh, that's no good thread, and the dealers are telling them, don't use that thread, and blah, 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 and you need to use what we sell. Okay. Here's my philosophy on the whole thing, because I've been sewing since 1991 and I've used every brand of thread. I wrote 2 books. I had companies that had me use their products, and every one of their products I have flawless results with. Every brand thread that they sent me, I've had flawless results, and I can say about every brand of thread, they're beautiful. Just like sewing machines, everyone's going to have their favorite brand to use. But I can't say, oh, my machine's better than your machine. But what I can say is the truth. And the truth is, I get flawless results with my machine. And if you're telling me your machine is better than mine, I don't see you doing anything better than what I'm doing. And I don't see you doing anything better than what everybody else is doing with another square quilt block again on cotton fabric. So it's a personal choice. But I want to talk about back to the thread now. So this is Coats & Clark. This is all-purpose dual duty. This was their old spool, and they still sell this. And this is a plastic spool. The real old ones are wooden spool with the old technology. They're going to have a lot of lint on them. This is great thread. I love it. Now, they come out with a new dual duty, all-purpose, and this is in their new spool. It's a different type of spool cap. And it's wonderful. I really enjoy this. Again, I have no problems. I have no lint, nothing when I sew with this thread. Same with this one. I still have no problems. And all my results show in my photos. You see what I do. Okay. Then you also have Gutermann. I've always had flawless results with Gutermann. Now, there was a video that I did where I had one spool of Gutermann that was disintegrating as I was sewing with it. I'll post that link under this video. There's 2 parts to that video. So I'll post both links, the link to both videos so you can see. Because all the other spools were great. It was just the one spool I had problems with. It was a fluke. Some people say because they switched manufacturing, went to Mexico, they had problems with manufacturing. Who knows? I don't know. All I could say is it was only one spool of Gutermann. It was a yellow spool that I had problems with. Never had problems with Gutermann again. Here's another yellow spool of Gutermann. This spool I have no problems with, but one of the spools I did. Okay. Then we have, oh my God, Walmart. Do you remember? How many of you remember when Walmart had their own brand thread? It was made, look at this, it was made in the USA. I still have so much of this. It was 2 spools for $1. See that? 2 for $1. And this one hasn't even been opened yet. And all the Walmart spools I have, I use, and I get great results. I get great results with this thread. And they don't make it in their brand anymore, but when they did, it was made in USA. Now, they probably don't make it here anymore. I don't know why. Maybe because the thread's not made in America anymore. Who knows? But, and this was on a plastic spool. This was not wooden. Still enjoyed that one. Then we have Metro Scene, this is called. Sewing thread. This one you find at your sewing machine dealers. This is great. Love it. What else do I have here? Oh, Madeira. Madeira makes sewing thread. They also make embroidery thread. Everybody knows Madeira for embroidery. They also make sewing thread. Fabulous thread. You get this at local sewing machine dealers. It's great thread. Absolutely great. And then, how many of you are Sewing with Nancy fans? How many of you have been watching? How many of you watched Sewing with Nancy since the early 90s? You recognize that name? Signature Threads was a sponsor of Nancy Sewing with Nancy. And this is mercerized cotton covered polyester. And she used this thread all the time. This thread was on my thread rack. It's a little dusty. Usually when I pull threads off my wall that I haven't used in a while, I gotta dust them off. I have so much thread I have no room to store it anywhere, so I have it all hanging on my wall. So when I tell you I use every spool of thread and I have all these different brands, you know, it's true. And some of you have seen my collection before. So Signature, this was great. And everybody was buying Signature because Nancy was using it. Remember that? Again, another dual duty here. Now, one thing I want to tell you, I did a video also on spool caps. And I'll post that link below this video so you can watch. Spool caps. Very important to use spool caps. This machine I'm using here, it doesn't have a spool cap. This is a semi-industrial sewing machine. All different brand manufacturers make them. Just look at their websites for their sewing machines. They always list them under quilting machines. I think the reason why they call them quilting machines is because they have a longer throat area here. But this is actually a semi-industrial machine. If you don't have the room for an industrial machine, this portable industrial machine is the best way to go. And these are great because they use them in manufacturing for garments, and this is what it was originally made for. Great machine. Let's see what else. So another Madeira. So anyway, going back to the spool caps. Let me grab a couple spool caps. Okay. All right, so here we have this skinny spool. And the skinny spool, you want to use the smaller spool cap. Now, one thing you want to be sure about is to make sure that that spool cap is bigger, a little bit bigger than the spool of thread. So when that thread comes off, when the thread feeds off, it'll feed up and around the spool of thread. Because, like these old-fashioned spools of thread, they have a little slit in here. And why was that slit put in here? That slit was put in here to store the thread. So when you're done with the thread, you would just find that slit and you would pull it through that slit to store the thread. Problem is, when the thread is unwound, sometimes, say, it gets caught on that slit. So what you want to do, you would think that you would use a medium spool cap, but the medium spool cap does not go up and around that whole spool of thread. So you've got to use the larger spool cap, and then when that thread unwinds, it will not get caught on that slit. Now, what happens when that thread gets caught on the slit? It gets hung up, it won't feed, and it's dragging your needle, pulling your needle, then your needle busts. And that's how you get burrs on your throat plate then. Okay? So, like the Baby Lock and the Brother machines, they come with the small, medium, and large spool caps. The other brands you'll have to check. I think my Janome only has 2 sizes, but they are big enough to go around. So just check. Just check to see. So I wanted to cover that about thread, but listen, if you ever had a problem with the thread, it could have been a fluke. It could have been just a bad piece of a spool of thread. This is Madeira's rayon thread for embroidery. Beautiful thread. So what I want to say to you all is, on these sewing groups, you keep saying your dealers are telling you this. Who are these dealers that are saying this? Because these dealers, it's like it's defamation of character to a brand company, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. All right,
let's move on.
Okay, one more thing I wanted to point out is that, a lot of us are making masks now, and these masks are made of cotton fabric. But most of you out there, home sewers, use nothing but cotton fabric because most of you are quilters. And for the newbies that are coming in, cotton fabric is a natural fiber, and it has a lot of residue. When you're sewing and that needle goes up and down, it's puncturing through that fabric. It's pushing those fibers down into your throat plate area. And you're going to get a buildup of fibers inside this throat plate area. So you need to keep this clean more often. Now, when I'm sewing with vinyl, when I'm making vinyl handbags, I don't have that kind of buildup like I do when I'm sewing cotton fabrics. So keep that in mind. A lot of people think it's just the thread. It's not. It's the fabric. It's the fabric. All right, so now, that's it for that. So now, here's the next topic, and this is a warning. So if you don't want to listen to this next topic, shut me off now. Okay, so now we're going to go to what's happening in the world today. Yesterday, all week. Oh, these cheap pins, the balls come off. These are supposed to be quilters pins, and these quilters pins, I don't like them. I won't buy them anymore. They get rusty real quick, and then these balls don't stay on. I'm not giving you any brand, I'm just showing you. These here, though, these ones with the color pins, those work really nice and they're smooth. All right, so what's happening in the world today? I was reading where the president wants to start opening up states again. I think it's a bad idea because we're just reaching the peak of the first wave of this virus. And from history with other pandemics and diseases, they usually come in 3 waves. And right now, if we don't all stay put, if we don't all wear personal protection when we're out in public, this virus is not going to be under control. We're still a long ways away from a vaccine. So until that vaccine is made, you need to wear personal protection when you go out. You need to be more conscious. What this government needs to do is this government needs to start making sure they send stimulus checks to every citizen for the next several months to stay home to get rid of this virus. Well, not get rid of it, but to help control it. So when we go back out there, it won't be like it is now. And by then, they'll be halfway through working on this vaccine. Now, a lot of professionals say we shouldn't even be going out there at all until a vaccine is created. Well, I can't. It's true. I mean, it is true, but so many. We just need a few more months, I think. From reading everything I've seen, we just need those few more months to get this more under control, because it hasn't been that long since our first wave came in, and the first wave isn't even over yet. Because when we're reading all the information coming from the other countries, a lot of people are being reinfected. Now, China, in Wuhan, they started to open up again, but their citizens have to wear personal protection. And I saw videos. These people looked like they were going to the moon, the way they were dressed up. They looked like they had spacesuits on to go out. And for good reason. Because the virus has no vaccine. Now, you got people that work in the service industry, like restaurants. I'm a hairdresser. You've got people who work in medical, of course. In hairdressing, you can't stay 6 feet away. You're right behind that client. And speaking of hairdressing, yes, my clients, I feel terrible for you. My God, I look like Einstein right now. I look like a Polish, German, Jewish Einstein man with my hair. I'm ready to shave it all off myself. So I feel your pain. Several of my clients message me every day. Oh my God, what do I do with my hair? What am I going to do with my hair? I wish I had an answer for you right now, but just play Elvis for now and slick it back, okay? You're not going anywhere anyway, so none of us are going anywhere right now. Let's see what else. So yeah, if you there's an article about wearing masks that was by, let me get this. That was by the Scrubs magazine for the medical world. It's a magazine that's produced for the medical world. I will post a link for that article under this video that tells you about wearing masks and why you need to wear them. I see some boys over in Michigan, some redneck boys, were protesting, and here's what's really sad. And these guys should be arrested. These people should be arrested and thrown in jail. All these healthcare workers trying to get to the hospital. Ambulances, emergencies couldn't get in and out of the hospital because of these protesters. So these protesters are preventing medical personnel from attending to sick people because of their own selfishness. Watching that, I said they're committing murder. They are committing murder. And what happens to people who commit murder? They go to trial, they go to jail, they go to trial, and then they're in prison. They're in prison for most of their life, if not all their life. These people that were protesting there should not be any different. They should not be any different. And I don't care if they're Trump supporters or whose supporters they are. That was wrong what they did. You do not hold up the medical world from getting into the hospital. You do not hold up sick people trying to get to the emergency room. That, no, that was wrong. I hope they got the license plates of all those people that were doing that. So next subject is all these ministers and all these people who did not listen to everyone saying you need to stay 6 feet away, you need to wear a mask, and they were going to their church services and stuff. And so many of these people now, these ministers, and even a lawyer for one of the evangelists that went to the church, he's got coronavirus now. He doesn't know where he got it, he said. Oh my God, doesn't know where he got it. He was standing next to a congregation of people inside a church. You know, those people, there's people that have the virus. They may not be symptomatic, but they've got the virus. They're carriers. I mean, this lawyer is supposed to be smart. I mean, he did go to college and have a degree, or did his daddy buy his degree? That's another, we talked about that subject before. Honestly, anyone who is that stupid to not wear protection, it's like I go back to this analogy of sex. Condoms have been around for how many decades now? And how many people refuse to use condoms? And then when they get an STD, oh, I don't remember who I got it from. You don't remember who you got it from? How many people have you been sleeping with besides your wife or your husband? You know, condoms just aren't to prevent pregnancy. Condoms prevent STDs. My father even told me about the stories when he was in the Marines and they were stationed over in Japan and stuff, and how they would hand out condoms to the Marines before they had shore leave because they were getting what's called the clap. They called it the clap back then, where the Marines were coming back and they had the clap. My father told me his horror story where they would insert this, the doctors would insert this device into their penis and open it up like an umbrella and turn and scrape it as it came out. And you heard these men, in the barracks screaming. They're screaming for life, like they were being murdered. So yeah, you know, there's protection there for people. People are warned about things. Do they listen? Hell no. And then when they get sick or something happens to them, suddenly they're the victims. They're the victims. I worked for this lady for a short period of time, and all her employees were 1099 contractors. She never paid their health insurance. She never paid their taxes. Every person who worked for her was a 1099 contractor. And she needed these people to make money, to keep her business open. So I asked her, I said, because she blunt out told me she voted for Donald Trump. And I asked her, I says, why would you vote for Donald Trump, who wants to take away health care from people like us who are 1099 contractors, and you don't provide health care to your workers? You know what she said to me? And this is the honest God truth. Well, I didn't vote for Hillary because she didn't leave Bill when he cheated on her. At that point, I'm like, you're a business owner? You're a small business owner and that was your answer? So, then a while later, after I started working there, her husband said to me, these young girls walked by, and her husband said to me, ooh, I love those 21-year-olds, and if you tell my wife, I'm going to deny it. Obviously, she already knew, so she took her resentment out and anger against Hillary. Because she couldn't leave her husband, so she blamed Hillary because Hillary didn't leave her husband. The mindset of some people. Right? What do you do? What do you do? There's nothing you can do. People want to learn, they'll learn. People want to be educated, they'll be educated. But there are always those people who will not accept responsibility, and everybody else, it's everybody else's fault. Just like sewing machines. People who own sewing machines. I don't know how to do this. My dealer didn't give me any lessons on this. Open up your sewing machine instruction manual. It's in there. I don't know. I'm no good at reading an instruction manual. Can you just tell me? Okay. So what is the difference between typing a comment on Facebook to tell you how to do something and reading the same thing out of an instruction manual? If you can't understand what the instruction manual is saying, and somebody on Facebook is just copying that information from the book and posting the same thing on a Facebook comment, what is the difference? People just want to be spoon-fed. Nobody wants to think for themselves. And you got to blame their parents too. You got these helicopter moms that when you ask their kid a question, they answer for their kid. And these kids are 25 years old, and the moms are still answering for them. And you know who I'm talking about out there. Some of you are sitting there laughing. Some of you are really pissed off at me right now because you know you're one of the ones that are guilty of that. Yeah. So how's my preaching today? Am I telling you all the truth? You know I'm telling you the truth. I don't talk about anything that's not the truth. Alrighty. Oh, I pinned this one backwards. I gotta redo this one. Yeah. No, did I? Yeah, I got this one backwards. Alright, so I'll move on to the next step. My next machine.